Okay, I'm going to get started. So, does everyone here know whether they have a fifth color determination or PHS or not? No, you don't?
I don't.
Okay, some people do, some people don't. Okay, so here's the thing.
Wait,
This is, yeah.
Can I see who does have it? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'm sure of it.
Okay.
Hi.
I think that I have it.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that feelings?
No, that's the tone. So do you? Yeah.
Yes.
You do.
Yay!
Yeah, please. Okay,
So-
so my friend.
I know you for flowers.
So here's the thing. This isn't a lecture. There's really not that much of a setup. You know, this is my wild card offering for the conference, just out of my own curiosity. And I guess my hope is that I can kind of catalyze some awareness around this happening in our lives and we start to track it. So what it is when you have this fifth color determination, or PHS, you have a unique capacity that no other determination has. And, you know, anyone who's studied design for a while, you know that the fifth line is a universalizer. It's a universalizer able to be a stranger of consequence, right? It's reaching strangers. That comes from the fifth color that reaches the strangers of tones. And it can reach all of those tones, all of those different types of cognition as needed. Your body just does that, it just happens. Okay, so let's just back up. A determination, internal determination, is how you take in food and you take in life correctly, okay? Both on the figurative level and the literal level, okay? The cognition is your sort of super sense that you rely on to navigate the world, okay? So that could be, you know, smell, taste, outer vision, inner vision, feeling, and touch. And we can unpack these if that's helpful for the conversation. So for most people, anyone who doesn't have the fifth color, you've got this one super sense. It's not as if you don't have the other senses, but you don't have them in any particularly gifted, significant way. The fifth color does, okay? So what I'm opening everyone to kind of reflect on and explore here is, have you seen, anyone who's got this fifth color, do you see yourself as, this is my assumption, that we're more sensually oriented people, okay? I don't necessarily mean in some romanticized sense. I just mean that we have very acute senses and they kick online as needed. So one of the tricky things may have been in your HD process, you might have been like, well, I don't know really what my cognition is. You know, you're telling me it's smell, but I actually feel pretty tapped into some other ones. That would be correct with the fifth color determination. So for myself, you know, 6.5 years into my experiment, I realized my PHS wasn't, I've been doing my PHS practice for a couple years, and I'm like, you know what, I don't care what's on this piece of paper, it's not fucking right. You know, so I trusted my body, and that led me to eventually get a rectification where I found a PHS that made sense. It was this fifth color, low sound, and all of a sudden, my tonal cognition changed from 2, which is the selective taste thing, to 6. Now here's the trouble. I'm this universalizing PHS, so of course I could identify with taste and being discerning. The other thing is I've got second tones and underneath all of the other, you know, quadrants, all of the other variables. I particularly see it with environment. Like I'm here in Santa Fe and I'm like judging the environment. I'm like, it's very brown. It's too brown for me. You know? So I'm very picky about, you know, my environment, architecture, all that stuff. But I want to open it up. You know, anyone who's got this, are you aware of this in your life? And if, at the very least, if you're not, let's kind of take that on moving forward, if that's correct for you, and keep in touch about it.
So yeah, I really love that. I was gonna ask for like a real life example, and I feel like you opened that up, so I appreciate that. I can share kind of my understanding, like when you talked about being like sensual, I was like, I literally have used the word sensual for myself since I was a teenager. You know, and I mean, it did start off as like romantic, but then I was like, no, it's just all of my senses. And yeah, so my kids or whatever, I give a lot of, you know, each of them actually is different. I think, is that true? Yep, all 4 of us are different, which is actually kind of crazy. But I kind of just give that to them, like, oh, your vision, your smell. Here, you smell the food and see if it's good for everybody to eat, you know, if it's gotten rotten in any way. Thank goodness she's always a yes to that. But you know, my oldest daughter's feeling, and so being able to describe that to her and her get it right. But I totally have had experiences where I feel like even like, yeah, I mean, I was gonna say the feeling one, but that's also touch, cognition, so the feeling and the touch is similar. They're both solar plexus, but yeah. I can't think of anything in particular. It just, when you said it, I just feel myself like looking back on and like moving through the different, you know, tones and these different situations. Just feels like a flow rather than a linear experience of just the touch.
Right.
I'm having just a moment right now because I have need motivation, which goes into all of them, and moves, and then I have also this, which now I hadn't realized before that I'm high sound, and that the sound also will shift. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, no, I've experienced where it's this dynamic morphism depending on what's happening around me, and with the family, what's being called out. And I have the 3740 in my nodes, both in line 2. So there's an element too of like what's happening that's getting pulled out of me that I can feel they need or whatever. And there's been times where I felt like I'm almost spirit walking, where I'm wading through so many different layers of things. In the environment, not even within myself, just my experience of the outside world. Like there's so much digestion happening with different sounds and tones and sensations and interactions and it's kind of interesting. There's something there I can feel. There's a piece trying to settle. That kind of clicks with the determination and my need. But I've definitely had that experience. Well, I mean, even just a second ago, I don't know if you guys heard my son screaming. Like there was a, you know, even when I'm dialed into something else, there's still these antennas just happening that's picking up so much more. Plus I'm a right personality. Interesting. That's cool.
Well, I don't have anything to say to that part of it per se, but I would share that for me, getting into this, for me, low sound eating has changed my abdomen so much. Like I had so much abdominal discomfort for my whole life, and all these different kind of food diets and all these different kind of things to clean my guts and all that kind of stuff. And the thing that has calmed it all down is earplugs, headphones, and then now I'm in a life where I live in the quietest place that I've ever lived. I mean, it's really.
That's
and the
wonderful.
refrigerator is in a bedroom, not in the main room. And so I have, in my whole life now, I have quiet. And I don't have like menstrual discomfort anymore because my abdomen isn't all fucked up. And I mean, wow, what a big deal. I mean, I want all the women to know something like that. You know, it seems to be the thing that I hear from a lot of people is that your PHS eating takes away the bloating and issues like that. But I wonder if any of you have noticed, like, is there more sound in your life for your higher sound eating? Or is there less sound in your life with your lower sound eating? Have you noticed that? Or do you have anything to say about what you felt actually in your guts?
I would love to share kind of my experience with it. So I'm low sound, and I found out 4 years ago. I think I'm not telling you how long was it. And anyway, and so like experimenting with it is a lot of it's been in the mind, right? And so when I just stop trying to force myself to eat in the quiet, what I found is that sometimes I would prefer to eat while watching like a show on Netflix. I like zone in. And I'm like, and then my mind would be like, no, you're doing that wrong. And I'm like, it feels good in my body. And so I've come to this, I don't know, possibility. You know how like with temperature, right? When you have hot or cold people, right? And it's like just colder than body temperature or warmer than body temperature. I have this understanding that it's like just lower sound than the loud in me,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Not jarring.
Yeah.
Process.
Right,
Not
and
jarring.
it's it's not just any sound, right? Like I can't just watch any show. It has to be like something that's very like easy to, you know what I mean? But it brings my attention, and so I'm able to quiet the loud inside of me.
Yeah.
And I can just like and listen, and I can just eat, and I just flow so easily, right?
Yeah,
And so that's kind of my theory or whatever, is like that it's just quieter than the loud in me, or maybe louder than the quiet.
I've totally found that. I haven't said it quite in the sense of louder than or quieter than the loud in me, but what I thought, because again, I've been experimenting with PHS for a while, but I've only had the correct PHS for not even a year yet. But what my mind thought Ra was pointing at was more quietude than is really necessary. And I know that now because I feel very obviously uncomfortable in my body when it's too loud. I'll be like, oh no, not that. But I can have Netflix on or whatever.
Do you both, I know you have head ajna, do you have head ajna definition? Yep. So I asked this question before. I like to be online, maybe reading while I'm eating, and I'm wondering, does that...
Are you open?
No, I'm defined there. So, but
Yeah,
what you said about... But I think that by reading, it quiets my mind, so my mind isn't running while I'm eating.
That makes sense.
Because otherwise, my mind is running, and so it's a
That's
different...
where the loudness is. I'm like, God, shut up already.
Exactly, but with TV or the computer, you have a little distraction, so my mind is not doing its chatter.
Totally,
You know,
that makes sense to me.
That's what's worked
Can
with
I
me.
say something?
Yeah.
I'm not color 5, but my husband is.
Imposter! What are you doing here?
Okay, I overheard you literally invite her.
I did. I'm glad you're here.
And I want to share because it's coming up, but color 5 tone 5, my daughter's color 5 tone 5, and sounds that aren't welcome.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he can be watching something, but if the fucking cockatiel is in the background going chirp, chirp,
Yeah.
you know, like he is going jumping out of his skin.
Ah,
But
okay.
he puts in earplugs
Yep.
and watches a show. It can probably be as violent as he wants, but he can control the volume of it,
Uh-huh.
and then he's good. He's
Uh-huh.
tuning out everything else.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like it's just that one thing that he can focus on.
I
Yeah.
so relate to that
Yeah.
one, and there's like one thing I'm just like, that needs to stop.
Oh my
I
God,
can't
yeah.
concentrate.
And I kind of arranged this kind of arrangement with my kids where, actually I just realized I haven't done this in a long time because I've been watching my grandson, but well, okay, whatever. Anyway, until noon, I asked them to just be quiet for me so I can spend the first half of my day. I would wake up early, they usually wake up later anyway, but then I would have all this time to start my day off correctly. And then the second half of my day would just flow so much. They can make as much sound, noise as they needed to. I mean, normal. It's like, okay, good, now we can crash the cymbals or anything crazy. But, it's like, it was so much easier to be with that if I was able to spend that first half of the day in quiet,
Yeah.
and just be in my own. And starting the day off with a, relatively quiet mind, depending on, stressors were going on in my life. But, starting the day off like that and then being able to, I was so productive that first half of the day. I could get so much done. Felt very in my manifestorness. I'd read, I'd wake bursting, and I feel so peaceful. And then it was just this natural flow of like, okay, everybody knew it was noon, and it was like, okay, they're, taking off their headphones or whatever the thing is, or they're they're allowed to come ask me how I'm doing, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's something we haven't practiced in a while, and I can feel the difference.
Well, I'm just blown by they comply with this plan. I'm like, wait a minute.
We're a
when did you
consensual
talk?
family. We're a consensual family, and we're really big on what is it that you need, and how can
Yeah.
we figure this out in a way. So, like we
Third
homeschool
base.
and stuff. Oh yeah,
This is your
totally.
third base in
Yep.
action. Yeah.
Wow, okay.
But I'm third base. I mean, I love being third base too, but I think I might like saying it even more than I. But anyway, so we have this total, just collaboration. Like we, we're partners in family, and
Yeah.
and so we honor each other's needs. For the most part. my younger two are 7 and 2 together, and so there's a that started like five years ago maybe. Things shifted, and so they were like the best of buds before that. But anyway, but yeah, they're like, oh, this is a thing that you need, yeah, because they know that I'm gonna honor a thing they need, and it's just how we do.
Yeah. So I mean, I find, so I'm, as you know, doing the sort of steps sort of role thing, and kids have been in my life for a few years now, and it's like I find it so just interesting that like when kids get together with their friends, they just scream. Like they're just like, ah! And I'm like, I don't remember doing it. Like we were loud, but we were like talking and laughing. Like they just love to just scream.
American children.
Yeah,
Not
that's
that way in other countries, and it's part of what's uncomfortable for me here. Like, why are you all screaming? You make me uncertain about the future. I don't want to be near you. I'm going to Mexico.
After being in Mexico for a month, I was like, I could hear the U.S. from however many hundreds of miles away. I'm like, you're so loud. It is so quiet here. And part of it for me was I didn't speak Spanish, so the sounds I heard,
We're just
it
nice
wasn't
sounds.
filling. It was just sounds.
Yeah.
There was no clogging up my, now we're going to think about this.
Welcome to my deconditioning program.
Yeah, I have the
They just don't understand what they're saying.
6447.
Yeah.
The 6447, so I just gather everything.
Right.
And then it like processes over time and distills down to some aha, which can be fun unless you're constantly bombarded with things to gather. And then I've got the 24 that's just, what was that? Let's just keep rolling it over until we figure out
That's a
what it
game
is.
I'm glad I don't have.
Oh, I have it also. What line do you
It's
have?
a rough one.
Yeah.
I can't
It's
remember.
mine, right? Noisy mine.
Sorry.
Yeah, oh my god, yeah. And I have the 43, which is also another noisy mind. I'm like, I'm really loud Ashna. Oh man.
Would you like?
I don't
Would you like
enjoy
some
mine
calmer,
defined
quiet
option. I
time?
don't find it noisy.
Totally.
And
I
that's
was on a
64.
mushroom trip the
It's
other
just
day, and I was
always
like,
going
this is
deeper into
not
something.
fun
It's
being
just
in
chewing
me.
on
Like, who
something.
would want to sign
I
up for
love
this?
it.
Like, shut up.
Yeah, it's not a problem.
I mean, I used to go on, always feel like I needed to be on some
Internal
quest or
dialogue for
journey.
sure.
Yeah, sure. That's that trip, yeah.
So it's funny. I've been trying to figure out how to establish what you got going on. I have a 7 and 2 with Pax, and he's been my greatest teacher because of that grading nature. And his 51 man will shock, and it's in Uranus, and I love what he brings to really, like, he shifts me so much.
Shocking and unusual sidetracks.
Yeah, well, and he's a plot right with innocent motivation, so he's just doing what, but he's showing me what the environment is, like, that's what I love, is he is, like, literally showing me his chaos that I see have, like, that, like, what you mentioned, the screaming and the insanity of, like, some of these American children.
Yeah.
But I see it, and I can feel, like, the pattern of what's creating it within him that's causing it. And that's where I'm grateful for my frequency sensitivity, because there's times where I can kind of pick up on the threads of what's happening. But my mornings, oh God, they're finally peaceful. It's taken years of and just things naturally moving in life for me to find some kind of footing in the morning, because it would be so loud, so crazy. He would skyrocket out of bed. And, like, there would be times where, and he would, like, manifest our anger. He would pull my blankets and be like, get up, we're getting up. And like, I would be like, this is not how we're doing things. And in my head, too, I was still in the, I'm gentle parenting, so I'd be like, love. And of course, that's fake, right? I'm biting my anger, saying, please be nice. So it took, and I'm still figuring out that footing of how do I, my own anchoring in with the environment and setting up the environment is where I'm at now with just the kids, and trying to get some type of order to the chaos, at least where I can handle it. Because there is so much swirling, it feels, all the time. With that, I'm still figuring out what I need and not, like, in the morning to set up. But I've experienced that same, where it's like those mornings where it does flow peacefully, where there is some quiet or some hum, or I can help push him and guide him into some kind of direction where he's happily satiated doing his thing, and I can kind of flow. I definitely notice my tolerance for the sensory overload that I experience is much higher. And my peace can be maintained even in the most chaos. Like, I've been complimented a number of times in the past because I've been able to manage just crazy, and I'm high sound. So, like, of course it's all frequency based, but like I can handle a lot happening and a lot of sounds and a lot of things if I'm, well, I don't know how to word it yet. I have the feeling, but I don't have the words.
Like correct inside, maybe?
There's
Is that
some
what you're
type
getting
of,
at?
yeah, there's some type of flow that's happening. And I know part of it is me anchored into that piece. Like as long as my emo wave and I am not completely unaware of the fact that like I'm ratcheting up and not seeing it, you know, if I catch it. But it is such a trip how those, just an active environment with things happening and lots of sounds and just things moving can so suck me in and throw me off of my footing.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been playing with different things in the environment, like playing with like in the morning I've been putting on, I think it's called like British birds. It's like just nature sounds to create. It's like, okay, we're going to establish this sound instead. And I recognize that now. Okay, that's my high sound saying, okay, no, this is what I'm going to listen to and put into the environment.
Mm-hmm.
No,
So
that's
do
a
you-
I'm hearing a manifestor thing too.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to create the environment for the sound
Yes.
that I want to be in.
Conditioning,
Versus
yeah.
maybe other types. I don't know if they would do that as much. But
Yeah.
I set up my low sound environment.
Yes.
I planned
Yeah,
that
totally.
out. You know, like I'm going
When
to go
you-
eat that over there. You know.
Yes.
Oh yeah, totally.
Huh?
When you said sensory overload, I'm like, oh, I think that's where I've really noticed where my fifth feels all. It's like, I turn all the lights off in the shower. When I shower or take a bath or whatever, I have to have all the lights off, and I just have to sit there to like let everything out because I get so sensory overloaded from all the senses, and I think that's probably the biggest one for me. And noticing how those 5 show up in my life, I think is a sensory overload.
Yeah, yeah. Who is made a connection between low sound and low pitch and high sound and high pitch? Is that a thing? Hey.
Low sound and low pitch, yeah. I like low. Are you talking about like, I don't know if pitch is, I don't
Frequency.
speak these words, but like, yeah, like a deeper sound rather than a higher.
Yeah.
Rather than a
Bass
higher.
versus treble.
I
Yeah.
have this
Yes.
singing bowl that I literally, it was like a $3,000 singing bowl that I bought because it was so,
Mm-hmm.
it was like, you know, you actually felt it before you could even hear it.
Yeah.
Definitely my vibe.
Yeah.
And I high sound, I put in like light little fluttery sounds and kind of not heavy, like very light little misty notes, and there isn't anything really, at least for me, like I love like feeling like drums and feeling all of that. And when I prime my environment with some kind of sound, it's always something very airy fairy, or not really that. Part of it's because I get pulled into mystical shit if I start listening to stuff, so I have to like not turn that on if I'm trying to live my normal like muggle life with my kids. So if I start putting on so if I start putting on like kundalini sounds, you know, like I'll end up going into this, like my world will literally morph, and like what I see and what I'm feeling will morph.
That happens to me and I'm not fifth color.
Mhm.
I was thinking when you were talking about the sounds too, like the chanting monks, like the, you know,
Mhm.
or like the mystics
I
from
love
the
that,
Dark
yeah.
Crystal.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I
As a kid, I was like, there's something special here.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
My husband taught his choir how to do throat singing.
Oh,
Yeah, he's a choir director. He taught them how to do the overtone singing with the droning.
Yeah.
So
I'm here for that.
See, who likes really like deep resonant voices like Leonard Cohen, stuff like that? Is that appeal? So are you guys, do you know if you're
Yeah,
fifth
I do.
color determination? Or do you want me to help you sort that out?
Yeah, help me sort that out.
Okay.
No idea.
Nova's got it.
3.
Okay.
Your
Never forgive me,
determination.
but-
How about
so this could be.
James, could I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I mean, touch cognition.
I am not too clear about what you mean when you say that the fifth color accesses all of the tones. Do you mean in other people?
In yourself. It means it employs that different tone. So in other words, if you have, let's say you're calm, PHS, and you've got first tone, smell. That's what you got. That's your one super sense.
Yeah.
When you're fifth color, you have all of them.
You have all the tones, even though you still have one tone.
You
that
have
shows
one
up, but
that's
you
sort of
can-
significant, but you actually see. Here's the nuance about the whole thing. we all have all of the senses, but the 5 has all of them in a more extraordinary, heightened capacity. So that's what I'm trying to bring our attention to is you can tap in and you can be an acute smeller, taster,
Okay.
vision, so on and so forth.
Okay.
So what did we
Okay.
land on here?
Yeah.
3.
3?
Okay.
You guys gotta leave. I'm just kidding.
She's 5.
You know, I have the 44, so that may play part of it.
Well,
Oh, so
Yeah.
we're talking about thirst?
She's 3 color, yeah.
Okay.
And she's 5.
Lower, high. High, okay. Yeah.
Did you hear what Talia was saying about the fluttery light music?
Love
The
that.
high frequency sounds, yeah.
Does that? What
Because that doesn't do anything
Yeah,
for me.
yeah. Well, and that's why I do it because it doesn't do something to me.
No, I mean,
Like,
it,
like I
it
like
doesn't
that
feel
it.
right, is what I mean. Like,
Oh,
it doesn't,
yes.
it doesn't like bring me
Bring
into
the peace.
myself. It like pulls me out of myself. It feels like.
Yeah. So
I never
I
thought
notice
of
when I have those sounds, I can stay in the peace. If I start bringing in more chanting, more stuff like that, I'm now going into an experience or I'm going into a thing versus just being here. And I've had to cut that off because I'm like, I have 2 kids I need to take care of. I can't go down into this black hole right now and digest this other thing. But when you said it switched, you know, I've had times where I've lately been playing with, because I have gate 44 and I've just noticed in general, especially after pregnancies, like smells to things have really shifted and heightened. But I've experimented with trying just playing with different sensory stuff and just seeing what it does within. And I never really put it together that all of them are. I mean, I always was like, oh, I have a 46 in my divine design sun, so of course I'm going to be sensory sensitive. But I'm the one in the house that they go to, like, hey, can you check this? Can you smell this? Does
Yeah.
this sound right to you? Does this feel right to you? Does
Right.
this smell right to you? Like,
I
not just the
relate
one
to all
thing.
that. That sounds like my experience too.
Yeah.
I have a really cool experience, a really cool story to share if you guys are up for it. So I did a fire walk like 3 or 4 years ago. No, I don't know, one time ago, years ago. And you know, when you walk across the coals, sometimes they'll do what we call kiss your feet, right? Where they leave like a burn or whatever. And so, you know, we get there, and the whole thing to be able to walk across the coals is that you have to get your energy up higher than the energy of the fire, and that's how you're able to walk across it, right? So everybody's chanting, they're just chanting, and I've got this open route, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go, and I just like make myself go, right? And I get kissed in this one spot, I can't remember where it is, but on my foot, and I'm like, okay. So I go through a second time, same spot. Go through a third time, different foot, same spot. And I'm like, okay, there's something significant about this spot. Then they do a silent walk. I walk through it, no kissing of my foot. I'm like, So afterwards, everybody's like, oh, you can look up like Chinese reflexology,
Yeah, I was gonna say.
and you can see where the spot is. Digestion.
Whoa.
Wow.
I was like, oh, I think it's time to start playing with my determination.
Wow.
That was such a powerful experience. I was like, yeah, it's time to do that.
Yeah. So just for your benefit, since you guys just came in, so what we're talking about is that, so if you have a 5th color determination like you do, you have the unique ability to kind of rely on all of your senses. You have a lot of different sensory gifts. So we're kind of just opening up that question and like, have you noticed that? Are you tracking that? I mean, does that land on you? Like, you aware of that? Okay.
Yeah, but I'm especially attuned to my smell.
Okay. Is that her cognition, Nova, did you see?
Mine,
It is
It
smell,
is.
okay.
Oh yeah, I didn't see her.
And also, I feel like auditory things, like people's voices, I can like hear dishonesty before words form when someone is speaking to me.
Yeah.
It's just like a frequency I'm attuned to, I guess.
Yep.
That's as far as I've gotten this.
Yeah. Well, the 5 is frequency sensitive. Yeah, so I totally get that.
That resonates with me too. I always know before anybody, I actually know people before they even are in a sentence into something. I will know so much about a person.
Yeah.
And I'm a projector, so I'm so new to the experiment, you know, learning what's what is so interesting to me. And Brandy is my mentor, and she's been so good at helping me to, because I would be like I thought for the longest time I was like the worst mother in the world because I hated the sound of my kids crying. Like everything in my body like wanted to reject them because of the sound and stuff. And I was like, when I found out this about myself and I was able to forgive myself for that, that was so big for me. That was like one thing that was so big for me because I always felt so bad because it literally like babies crying, I felt like the most horrible person in the world because most people want to help them. I want to run away from them. Like that's one thing for me that was like so freeing once I realized it was just something.
Mechanics.
Yeah.
Stop blaming yourself because mechanics.
I love that. I'm really glad you said that because my grandson had like a lot of colicky stuff when he was a baby, and so there's a lot of crying, and I lost my shit a couple times, and then I was like, never done that before, but my kids didn't cry, and so with my grandson, and I would just get so, and I'd just be like, I need somebody to take this baby! It's been crying all day! I'm gonna explode if I don't get a 10-minute break! And that was really loud. I was like, whoa. Shocked myself.
That's what you need to be quieter then.
Yeah, so yeah, that just, I felt like that was just something for me to hear you share that. Thank you. I appreciate you bringing that awareness back to myself.
I heard other women say that and struggle with like, oh my God, you know, I shouldn't be responding like that. But,
Right, I mean,
But sometimes that irritation is what moves you into action.
Sometimes my kid's even like laughing sometimes. My son plays video games. I love my son, but sometimes he's really loud and he'll laugh really loud, like really hard, really loud, really fast, and it's like, oh yeah, it's so jarring. It's so jarring. And I'm like, oh!
Yeah.
We all lived. Okay. Moving on.
You made it through that.
Yeah.
my family thinks that they just look at me and like, what is mom doing? Because I have headphones on, like pretty much the majority of I mean, when I'm feeling, because I mean I live with a generator, a manifesting generator, and another projector. My kids and my husband and my mother-in-law, and so it is so much for me. So like I kind of almost had to ask everybody, like if I have my headphones on in the morning, please give me my space because I desperately need this to like ground myself. And I'm a gardener, so I also go out and I ground. I walk barefoot and I am up in my space. I have a wind chime it's tuned to A, and it is like the wind comes through and there's the buzzing of the bees, and I just go up there every morning after I have my tea, and I like put myself into that space where I can be available to them for the day, because all of those, I mean, it's literally everything. Like you're talking, it's so cool to hear this because it's the smells that I know when my mom's taking a shower, my mother-in-law's taking a shower because I can smell her Pantene like all the way across the house.
Oh my
Can you
gosh.
please change your shampoos? Like, I'm sorry, everything about you irritates me. The way you smell, the way you talk, the way you breathe, the way you do whatever. But once I started wearing my headphones, they all think I'm kind of crazy. But I'm like, I love you guys. Just
Right.
Well, congratulations on doing that. I'm really happy for you.
Yeah.
And everyone who is low sound, I'm like, get little earplug, put them in
Yeah,
all
I have
little
them in my
places,
car.
get your
Everywhere.
expensive headphones, give that to yourself.
I like. I
made a big
remember when I was justifying buying like bougie ass expensive noise canceling headphones because I was like, holy shit! But they changed my life.
Absolutely.
They're worth every
Amen.
cent.
We were just talking
The
about that.
the single most important material possession in my life is my noise canceling headphones.
Okay, wait.
If I have those, I can survive anywhere because I can just lay down and be quiet. And one time, I'm going to tell you, I was in a jail cell. Somebody arrested me, had me arrested for something I did not do. But I went to a jail cell, and it was in a foreign country, so it was really clean and quiet. And I was like, this is awesome. This is the thickest walls. I'm completely alone. It's completely clean because it's in Northern Europe, and it's quiet. And I had 2 hours of total quiet alone with no responsibility. And if I hadn't had all my quiet time before, if I hadn't known the peace of my own quiet, I might have felt tortured.
Yeah.
But I felt like I was in heaven because I was alone in the quiet.
So with the noise canceling headphones, do you hear your own heartbeat, breathing, mouth move? Okay, because that's why I don't wear them. That's good to hear.
No.
Because
No, they're magic.
I go crazy hearing because when I wear the earplugs at night, I
Right,
hear
then
my own breathing
I
and
know
my
what
own
you
everything,
mean.
and I'm just like, like this.
Yeah,
It's
no,
really
it's
hard to-
different. Sometimes I'll do
That's
both.
good to hear.
Sometimes I'll do both,
Yeah.
but no, they're
No, that's really good to hear. Okay.
Pardon my ignorance. Fifth color is
Yeah.
high sound. So
It's either high sound
High or low
or
sound,
low
yeah.
sound. So in other words, it's frequency that
my
would
daughter and I
say.
both.
Uh-huh.
I'm like in a room with my people. Hello, everybody. Everything you just said. She recently got diagnosed with a sensory integration issue. She's
Okay.
like highly sensitive to her environment, a preference for heavy touch, and a withdrawal from light touch generally. And it was interesting because when she was little and colic, I'd be like, turn the music down, turn the TV down, turn the TV off, you know, because I'm sensitive.
Mhm.
And it's interesting, I think you understood you correctly when you said that that there are heightened sensitivities in all of the
Yes.
areas. So that includes light and
Not in the PHS colors, but in the tones.
okay.
Yeah, so it's a smell, the taste, the outer vision, the inner vision, feeling, which is really energetic, frequency, sensitivity, and then touch.
Right.
So yeah.
So I'm always kind of like playing this line between Western diagnoses and human design. And so I'm like, where is this in the chart? And I think you just kind of like might have cured that question for me, because she is very, part of my deconditioning is her amplification of me, which is really cool. She is very sensitive and aware and avoiding of certain people. And knowing human design, I'm just like, she doesn't have to talk to me when she doesn't want to. And what's interesting too is hyperreactive skin is also comorbid with this, and the treatment for both of it is massage. It's like is the calming the body, calming the brain thing.
Yeah.
And I'm imagining probably a lot of integration in that too.
What is her cognition? Do you know?
Her cognition is taste.
Taste.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's so funny because literally in the last session, when we were doing the parenting thing, I asked you what her color was or cognition or whatever, because I thought she was going to be touch.
Oh,
and now in this one, it answered my
now
question
it makes
too.
Sense. Now it makes
Thank
sense.
you for answering both our
That's
questions.
cool.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
I have a question. If you wear your headphones, does it block out the other sensitivities? Like if you can block out the sound, is the smell less powerful, or is the sensitivity
more
of the light less
powerful.
powerful? I'm curious. Yeah, I'm just wondering.
For me, like when I can have quiet, I'm more centered in myself, and so things don't bother me as much. Smells don't bother me as much, or whatever. I'm really sensitive to like perfumes or not, like whatever. Like we use all like
Artificial.
yeah,
stuff.
natural
Right.
stuff, except deodorant. Every time I try natural deodorant, I break. But anyway,
Schmitz.
I'm like, it's the one thing.
Schmitz.
I've
works.
literally tried like 17 kinds of natural
There's a really funny
deodorants,
Portlandia about this.
and I literally like break out. But anyway, so that was something else. But anyway, smells. I like my daughter when we moved in together. I'm like, she washes her clothes with like Downy, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
Tide and Downy, and I'm like, there's this like TikTok lady that I watch. I don't know if this is on TikTok, but I love TikTok anyway. And this lady, and she's she like puts her like stuff away. She restocks, takes pictures, videos or whatever of her just like restocking things, and it's so fun to watch until she starts like spraying everything like 5 times with, and I'm just like my nose is imagining what that smells like, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm done with this video. Next.
Yeah.
Like the artificial smells. I can't even walk down those aisles in a grocery store.
I can't either. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so I have the 45. If you have the 45, Ross says that you're always trying to get away from the smell. So I don't know if it's the king or the queen that's trying to like not smell the shit, you know, because that the 45 is the king or the queen. But so I'm not sure. I have the 26 and the 45 in that smell stream, but I think it more so comes from this and just having like super acute senses. But it's crazy because you're right, like, and we're all sharing this. It's like there are so many things that just don't feel right. It's just like it's constantly doing. It's like I don't like that sound. I don't like that smell. You know?
Yeah. I feel like I walk, and I'm a third line. I feel like I walk through life just being bombarded by everything, and that's why I'm like, God, my fucking bath time is like magic for me. I haven't done that in a while. Maybe that's why I'm so out of it recently. But like just being able to lock the door and be like, nobody. There's 2 bathrooms. Use the other one. If the door's locked, don't even knock. And I just like lay in there in the dark, and I'm just like, nothing is happening right now.
You need one of those deprivation tanks.
Yeah, without a doubt. Like gravity,
Yeah.
zero gravity.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
The deprivation, the saltwater float tanks are really humid though.
yeah, I'm dry.
Not
Yeah,
for me.
true.
But that's what surprised me. I actually fell in love with taking baths at this apartment because of the sensory overload. But yeah,
Hmm. Yeah.
I feel like you just answered so many questions.
Anyone else want to share or?
I resonate with it. I'm high sound,
Okay.
and it makes sense that I can tune into all of them because I smell, my taste, so that just like confirms
Yeah.
a lot. High sound. When I get overstimulated and I see myself like either in a mind trip or projecting out because of my fifth line body, like my body feels hot and like pressure, and I have open root and head, so like I'm
Pressure
just
sandwich.
a pressure
Pressure sandwich,
sandwich.
yeah.
And with the overstimulation, what helps me is to like get wave sound. So like I have headphones, and then like I put eye mask on, and then like get under a blanket, and then like to soothe my body. I worked with autistic kids for like 7 years, and these were the different techniques that I used for them. And I was just like, oh wow, like human design, we're all autistic in some little way. Like here are different tools to help the body. So like that's just what I've been experimenting with myself. I'm still kind of figuring out that like high sound is how you take in life.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm like, and then how you learn. So I'm like, do I now go study at like different places that have a lot of people? Because I'm also kitchens,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm still not understanding it for my body of like, oh, this is satisfying. Like I don't know, because I'm also new to my town that I'm in, so I'm still trying to like figure out what areas I like and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm like trying to
Navigate that.
navigate it, because I'm like, do I stay at home and just have like a speaker on and then like hang out in my kitchen area? Like I don't know, like just hang out, or do I like go trial and error different spots and like bring a book or bring something to take in like.
Yeah.
So, I know this isn't what we were talking about with the kitchens though. For me, like, because I'm dry kitchens, like,
Same.
kitchens for me is just anything where there's like multiple ingredients. So, like, my actual kitchen is fun sometimes when it is, but when it's clean, I'm inner vision, so I'm like, don't clutter my kitchen or I'm checking out till it's fixed. But anyway.
I thought you were touch, right?
Sorry, environment.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry, environment. I'm inner vision, and so yeah, in kitchens. So it's like literally, if my kitchen is cluttery at all, my kids are like, "Can we?" You know, like that's why I don't cook, because I'm like, I have to clean the whole kitchen before I will cook. And if y'all leave a mess, then I'm, anyway. And the taste. 2 of them are taste, and 1 of them is consecutive. I'm like, why even cook? Like I just cook for myself, I guess. But anyway, yeah. Anyway, I can go on about that. But with kitchens, I found, like right now I live in Austin, Texas, which is like a kitchens city. It's like music, food, nature, street art, like all the kitchen stuff, right? It's not dry, which is why we're actually leaving. We're moving to Oregon the end of this month to be in more dry area. But if I'm in a place where those mixed ingredients are working, then it's a correct, not always, but that's how I kind of figure that out. So I don't know if that was helpful for you as far as you talking about where to be. Yeah. And I find for myself, like, it's really uncomfortable for me to just like talk with one friend, like just if we go somewhere where there's yummy food, it's easier. I'm like, oh, more ingredients, more things to like flavor the, like even I was just thinking, I'm looking at a friend, I'm like, yesterday she's like, do you want some food? And I was like, yes. And we're just like, oh, and then we can eat and we can, and so it's like, oh, ingredients makes it easier. But like, there was somebody that was like, oh, we should get together sometime. And I was like, I feel so, I don't even know why. And then I was like, oh, because we need to do something that's interesting.
Yeah.
So anyway, kitchens, mixing ingredients makes that a lot easier. Whatever the ingredients are.
Yeah. And one of the experiments I saw, or my partner pointed out, was we were watching something, and it was loud, and I was eating, and then when it turned off, my body just like, I was done with the plate. And then she was like, is that because the sound got off? And I was like, oh, it was. Thank you for pointing this out.
Yeah. So one of the things, again, when I had this rectification, and now I've got fifth color, one of the person, the person who helped me figure this out, she was like, why don't you try to eat dinner with the TV like blasting? I just didn't do it. You know, like weeks and weeks went on. So finally she was like, I didn't think you were gonna do it because it's just not you, you know? Like you just couldn't take that experiment on. And it was like so true. But I just kind of sensed how uncomfortable that would be.
Yeah.
I eventually forced myself to do it. What I found was that with all of that stimulus, it like kind of put me in my head, and I was just like, okay, I need to be in my own zone, looking at the plate. And I was just like, I couldn't talk to anyone. I just couldn't be present. I was like shut down. I was just like, you know, kind of had to go in my own little zone. It was interesting to see that.
My ex.
I was just gonna say, so when you just said that, like I was talking to somebody earlier in another projector, and she's like, I'm gonna go to happy hour or whatever, and I was like, oh God. Happy hour for me, like going, because like having all of everything, all of that stimulation, I feel so bad because I will want to know about a person so much and be talking to them and be engaged or something, and then as soon as I'm in an environment like that, I literally can't I don't know my ass from a hole in the ground. I literally cannot give you my attention like whatsoever.
Yeah.
So it's so,
Yeah.
it's like once you know, like take me to a library and we can sit in the corner
Yeah.
and like, you know, one-on-one, or like put me anywhere in one-on-one with someone with like low sound, and that's
Totally.
my jam. Take me to a happy hour, and then in this experiment, it's funny because mentally I'm like, go to the happy hour, don't miss out. You don't want to miss out. You want to meet people. You want to. Oh my God, like that would be the worst thing I could possibly do for myself. And before this awareness, my body would have like physically reacted and like really just like strangled me almost in a sense. What I would feel like.
I know I'm always on the hunt for like a quiet, dark, intimate restaurant. Some of that's my 59.6, the intimate, you know, like there's different things in it, but yeah.
Yeah.
My
Like concerts or anything like that. Now I'm like,
I know.
I wanna
I hear
go,
people
but-
talk about how they've gone to all these concerts, and I'm like, I literally
Yeah,
my
you
entire
would.
life have been to like two.
yeah.
Like,
See,
one
I
as
like
a
shows too,
teenager
but I
and
have
one's like an older
to
teenager.
put in
Yeah.
whatever you
Yes.
call it.
Headphones
To-
or earplugs or
earplugs,
something,
yeah.
Yeah.
put it a
Yeah,
little
I
bit
thought about that
quieter.
recently. I thought about that recently. I was at, my friend and I, we went to
No,
this
I don't think so.
restaurant, and it's an outdoor area, and I was like, oh cool, we can just hang out here. But there was a band, and they literally sounded like they were just clashing sounds. It's just like, I was just like, is it, I hope this is over at 10 o'clock. I was just like, the whole time I just felt like gross, like the sound felt gross. I didn't realize, I was just like, like, be done already. And then finally it was over, and I was like, okay, now I can like breathe and like think and integrate this experience we just had. And then like this music started, like a jukebox, and it sounded like Halloween sounds or something. It was like screaming and like, so I didn't even know. I was like, is this even music? Like, what the hell's going on? Okay, let's just go. We're done. This is not going to work. Yeah, but then my ex-boyfriend was also sound low, and we would go to like, we'd sit outside at the restaurant so we'd have more quiet. And there would sometimes there would be somebody with that loud voice, and he's just like, like the shrill high, and he was just like, I hate people. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, it's kind of extreme, but yeah, it's grating on me too.
Do you guys have fifth color determination?
Not fifth color, no sound.
No.
Yeah, low sound. Yep, low sound, high sound, low sound.
touch cognition.
Okay.
Yeah, we're
taste.
both
Okay.
second. You're fifth color, personality and design, right?
Yeah,
And we're second color.
got it. Okay. All
Are we
right.
getting kicked out?
No, it's cool, man. It's cool.
We got voted off the island?
Voted off the
Welcome
island.
here.
I love it.
Yeah, so we're just talking about the unique capacity of the fifth color determination to tap into each cognition, to each tone. Yeah, we all have all the senses, but the fifth color, uniquely is able to kind of tap in a deeper way. So what has that been like for people? Have you noticed that? Do you see yourself as more sensitive to stimulus, more sensual, getting more information from your senses? like what's that been like? And it's been interesting to hear everyone's experience. I'm kind of getting a thread of sensory overload. It seems like a thing that a lot of us are relating to, I would say. Do you have anything to share since you have?
I'm all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Mainly, well, I mean, I can sense baraka in food.
Can you define that for everyone? So.
Just basically how much noise has moved through, how much frequency has moved through food, how much vibration has moved through food. I'm all right, so I'm taking everything in, whether I like it or not. So I can tell what the density of things are. It can get pretty intense. It depends on what it is. So it depends on what else I'm taking in. I can be taking in multiple things at one time.
Yeah.
I mean, I can read a lecture and listen to one at the same time and take in all of it. I don't think intervision's my cognition. As far as my fifth tone goes, I mean, I'm so right that I'm not really tapped into anything that's totally left. Touch, I would say I probably pick up a little bit. I do have judgment sense, so I am tied in the solar plexus binary as well as being intervision. So I do feel with aura. And I do judge with aura.
So you feel that even though it's on the personality side, you feel that auric sensitivity. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, I can still feel it even though it's on the other side.
That gets to my theory that I've shared with some of you that I see it all as form. It's all physical. The black is the aspect of your form that you're consciously aware of. The red's the aspect of your form that you're
That's
not.
my theory as well.
Yeah, and it's the only way that it all makes sense to me. It's also, you go deeper into this stuff. It's two design crystals. There's no personality crystal. Astrological transits, you experience them in your body. There's a million reasons why I see it as a physical thing.
Yeah.
So what you're saying really makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, for the right, it's that's what we're tapped into, fourth, fifth, and sixth tone. So
Yep.
and the majority of what we experience isn't documented. It's been researched and looked at by the time we left, but that's part of my work is finding out how deep and how far it goes. Of course, it's going to increase to the point where touch is going to get to a point where we're absorbing data off data sticks.
Yeah.
And those people will have probably the same architecture that I do, so it's preparation for people that are probably, that are definitely more vulnerable than I am, but to have those sensory capacities. For me, it's not just sound, it's vibration. I can tell cars going by on the streets. I can feel the cars going by on the streets.
What's your type?
I'm a projector.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's adding to everything.
Yeah. I'm all right projector,
Yeah. There's like a real quietude that just landed in the room when you guys came in. I mean, there was a little bit of a reset. Well, that's part of it, but maybe it's just also what you're bringing and who you are.
It's probably, I have a 45 and altitude, so it's probably, but if I was in a different mood, you'd feel my emoting and everybody probably pretty charged up.
Were you going to say something?
I just have a question.
Yeah.
What is it tapping into fourth tone? So you're saying you tap in mostly to like the upper trigram tones. So what is tapping into fourth tone like?
Fourth tone?
Yeah. Like what is
Fourth tone's visual.
I know that's what it is, but like in terms of sensory kind of.
So you said you are intervision? Is that right?
I'm intervision.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I would be really, there was
curious about someone who's not.
my big question
I'm
was
outer
that,
vision.
if you don't have one of the upper tones, you've got this fifth color, so you have access to all of them. What's your experience of intervision, of touch, of feeling? Like, how do you, have you seen that?
Yeah,
I mean, you have it already, so
yeah.
you know what I mean?
I already
But
Someone that
Who
doesn't have
doesn't
it, that's
have it?
tapping into their other senses.
yeah,
So
exactly.
I don't. Because I don't top of the other ones that are low, so maybe see what it's like somebody else that taps.
Will you remind me what the 4, 5, and 6 tones? I mean, I know.
So it's intervision.
What's 4? Yeah.
Intervision.
Intervision. Okay.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
then feeling
I
the
think
touch.
For myself, I feel like I don't know. I was gonna say I feel like more of a resonance with those 3 other than the.
Me
2.
too. Yeah.
And I'm 6 tones, so it makes sense that trigram I would feel more of a resonance with that one.
You're in the solar plexus binary.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And there's
then
something
the
so
other
we-
ones, I think the other ones, the smell. Yeah, think I don't know, I get more irritated, I think, with those ones. Like,
Yeah.
if the smell is off, I get more irritated. Whereas with the other ones, it's just like, I'm bodily looking for the stuff that feels good. Whereas,
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Well,
That's
we'll
what
be
makes
so.
sense. It's like an alien is something like
Yes.
yeah,
It
it's
feels
something more
very
alien.
foreign.
Like there's a
Yeah.
foreignness to it, but
Yeah.
there's still like in the digestibility. Like I think of the times when, well, for example, touch. So that's not something that's here, but it's such a huge part of what I do is touching. And it is something that I recognize that I am experimenting and playing with. There's not like an inherentness there, even though the skill is still there and I use it. But there's a element of like it's learned or it's grown or it's foreign and it's something I'm playing with outside of me that I am a part of, but it's not that. And it's like the natural navigation, you know, like you said, you feel at home in the upper, so there's
Yep.
like some navigation that can naturally happen versus this.
Yeah, I think the upper feels like me, and the lower feels like not me. Like
And maybe that explains the annoyance a little bit.
Yeah.
I totally resonate with
Explains the
that.
what? I sorry.
Annoyance.
The annoyance a
Oh.
little bit, yeah. Because
Yeah.
I totally am with you on the certain smells, tastes. It's all kind of like, oh, I don't like that.
It's just irritating. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Especially the smell one. Like,
And yeah, and then what we've uncovered in this Facebook group for the solar plexus binary is that we have a lot in common. You know, like I'm a touch cognition, but the feeling people, like there's a lot of overlap. Like we talked about sensitivity to energy and different healing modalities that we utilize. It's a lot of the same stuff, a lot of crossover.
Yep.
There was a lot of resonance with homeopathy, energy work, stuff like that. So there's something else to look at in terms of what binary you're in. So there's kind of a family there, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that group.
Can we talk about that more? The binary, solar plexus, or others?
Yeah, so there's 3 binaries. So splenic binary,
Well,
which
is
is,
it awareness then?
yeah, they're all
The
awareness.
awareness centers?
Exactly, yeah. So the splenic one is primarily about survival, and it's concentrated. What that means, it's kind of like always there, always kind of on, that sense of yours, so smell or taste. Then you get to the ajna binary, which operates periodically, so that's outer vision or inner vision. Okay, then you go down to the solar plexus binary, so that's, emotional, and that gets into, Rod talked about those cognitions being sort of almost like precursors or like a step toward rave consciousness and capacity. I mean, I'm sure there's a huge gulf, but there's some
When you turn on
deeper
the
degree
light.
of sensitivity to frequency and energy and things like that. So that's kind of the more quote unquote woo-woo stuff comes from the solar plexus binary.
So that's determined by, like, if you have the
Fifth or
line, then
sixth.
you can tap into all of them.
So if you have the 5th color, not tone, color, you can tap into all of them.
Okay.
Tones, yeah.
Does it have anything to do with your authority?
Yes, it works together. I mean, so I bring cognition into a foundation reading because I think there's a lot of gaps. Not everything's really activating, signaling the inner authority. So I feel like it is pertinent. As you're navigating life by yourself, is that smell appetizing of the food appetizing to you, or the taste or the touch or whatever it is? I think you need to know about that. I don't think it's that. There's no good reason to kind of postpone that. So.
I think my one line is just like, I need all the information right now.
Yeah. totally get that. Yeah. Yeah.
It's this may be steering the conversation a little bit, but it's been kind of looming since it was brought up earlier regarding digestion in different environments and what we've noticed physically. But like there's been times where like my stomach specifically, if I've gone through, and I'm a 4/6, so if there's been disharmony in relationships or like some kind of, and I have a heavily defined ego, and that ego, when someone clashes against it, I physically, like there's been times where I used to call it rock belly because I would have food that literally did not digest and I would have to throw it up like 6 hours later, more like 8 hours later, because my body just shut down the digestion. And just the physical symptoms, being in these frequency environments that feel attacking. It's like that same jarring feeling where there's this energy that I'm not liking, or something that feels like it's attacking me. An example, my husband is a emotional generator. Almost like his solar plexus is lit up. And when there's been times through our deconditioning process feeling that wave focused at me, my entire system, like it goes so haywire. And the digestion effects, like on the physical level, I can feel how it screws everything up. And then I have to spend so much time trying to clear out and realign to be able to, I think of like a circuit that's getting fried, in order to have the capacity to hold that amount of electricity, or that amount of frequency coming in. It's like there's this feeling of just being fried or unable to contain it, I just pictured like a breaker. Like, I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with, like electronics, but like where it gets fried and then a breaker has to happen to protect everything else from just getting hit with that massive shock. And I'm just kind of curious other people's experiences with the physicality of being able to take in these frequencies, processing these frequencies, and like on a physical level, what it's done or how you found you've managed in the body. I don't know if that was clear.
Do you mean like on the
like how,
tone level, or?
yeah, like I'm a touch cognition, and maybe if I touch something and it does something to my system, how do I, is that?
Yeah, like experience. Yeah, maybe more anecdotal.
Yeah, I've got experience. So, this is funny, I just thought of it. I was taking out the garbage one time, and I was about to take the cans up to the street, and there was a backpack by my garbage cans. And I looked at it, and I unzipped it and opened it up, and there was just a bunch of junk in there, and then I opened the front, and there was all these licenses. And in that moment, like, I just was, like, having a panic attack, like, really, like, could just, like, having a hard time breathing. I went inside, I ran it, I threw some salt, and did an Epsom salt bath, and I just could not stop feeling like I was cracked out. And I went down and looked at the bag again, but this time with like I looked total wonky, like with dish gloves, just like not going deep, kind of keeping my distance. And then I just called the police, I called the sheriff's office, and they came, and a cop came and picked the bag. He's like, yeah, it looks like it's just a tweaker's bag, and like there's a bunch of stuff in here, and I was like, okay, that makes more sense. So I feel like I've always kind of, and we talked about this before, I've always been very sensitive about who I'm okay touching me and who I'm not okay touching me. And I became vegan, 9 years ago, and it was just because of the frequency. I felt like, our food has a frequency. So there are certain things that, there's a sensitivity that oftentimes I know ahead of time, just like that backpack, don't touch it, but I was like, roll the dice.
That's a really interesting thing you said. I have, we're talking about fifth color PHS. It transfers to the 2, which could be these kind of limited diets like veganism or whatever. But I agree with you that I did find, because the 5 is also energy sensitive, frequency sensitive, the frequency was more to my liking of eating vegetarian or raw foods. I mean, that was undeniably there, but there's a whole other element, like Diana, who left a little while ago. We went out to dinner last night. I don't know, it was called Jumbo Cafe, something like that. I don't know. I could just tell that the food was made with care. And that's something that I say sometimes. I'm just like, oh my God, it just feels so delicious, because of how it's made, the intention behind it. And I don't think that it's not like they're doing Reiki in the kitchen. That's not what it is.
For sure.
But it's just like, if they're showing up and they love what they're doing, that comes through.
For sure.
Yeah,
So.
I used to joke around sometimes when me and my husband would get food out. I'd be like, I don't want to eat it because I can taste their bad attitude.
Yeah.
Like, I can taste that bad attitude. And I don't want it.
Yeah.
When you were talking about that you can feel the vibration of like the sound in the food or how it was prepared or whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, it was like ding, 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 ding for me. Like, okay, I'm not crazy. Not that I've noticed that's what it was that I was doing, but it's like I felt that. Like I've always been doing that and didn't know I was doing that. But then there was this part of me that felt like, so that was very validating.
There's a lot.
Really grateful you mentioned that.
I think this is probably a perfect place for me to be because I'm all right. So,
Yeah.
Raids will have all of these tones,
Mm-hmm.
and I have the same architecture, but I'm in a transitional vehicle.
Mhm.
So all of these tones for me are very real. Intervision deconstructs frequency. I don't see the same way that everybody else sees. Anybody with intervision doesn't see the same way anybody else sees, but I'm all right, so I take in frequency and I see through differentiation rather than patterns. Anytime that we're going over onto right tones, we're going into more advanced sensory capabilities, which is why you don't like those other sensory factors, because evolutionary wise you're seeing it as primitive, whether or not you want, and that's the this and the that, intervision is interesting because you can see, I can look at something and I can, it's not like touch cognition, right? But I can look at something and with my fifth color body I can tell if I like that or not. I have a client that's similar who's a mental projector, and she basically works as a psychic with items, but she's just using her inner vision. She's all right, and she's dialed into her inner vision.
I have a graphic designer in human design who taps in. She read my mind with logos, and she actually got confidence in working with me because she was like, I don't know, I think I'm kind of like, this is crazy, can you just validate? Are you picturing this font, this color, this background? I was like, exactly. So she's done a bunch of different things for me, and like the first time I was like, I must have been really good at communicating my needs, and I am in that field, so it's like, maybe I was, but then it happened again, and I was like, no, she's just like nailing it.
You can look at pictures and tell what somebody's demeanor or emotion is.
Oh, no.
See, I relate to that.
Yeah,
I totally relate
that seems
to
like
that.
a tone 5 and 6 thing to the interpersonal.
Yeah.
Read the micro expressions. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, 100%.
Because I always feel like I can know when I'm talking to a tone 5 or tone 6 because of how they look at me. They're like they're watching the micro expressions. Is that
I totally do that.
Yeah, it's like I can sometimes be like, oh, I bet you're touch.
Yeah.
Is outer vision deconstruct as well?
No. Outer vision is tied to visual cortex that's not mutated. It goes straight to the agina, it doesn't go straight to the head. Inner vision goes straight to the head. It's a mutated visual cortex. The difference is that outer vision is looking for patterns. It's action sense. It's looking for patterns. It's looking for something to basically take advantage of the environment. Inner vision doesn't need to do that. So inner vision can deconstruct the frequency of the environment, and it's looking for differentiation rather than looking for something that it can
I feel that. No, that makes sense. So when you said deconstructing it, I have outer vision and I'll see a lot of different layers of things, and that's why I asked, I was like, is it deconstructing too? Because I can feel a level of I'm piecing together, but there's a patterning.
So when you get to a certain point of your outer vision, you'll stop seeing patterns and you'll start seeing anomalies.
I had to shut that down a little though. My 2551 with 2 little kids, I was like, I gotta be here on the earth plane, and so I couldn't ground it. Everything, there was a lot coming too much, too fast. With other things, I felt like my energy was dispersed, being, taking care of kids in a home, and then trying to figure out and digest. There was a slowing down effect I could feel happening, like intentionally shutting. But I'll see a lot of different lights and pops and things, and I call them little quirks or quacks. They're like little random. But I could feel myself trying to digest and make sense of it. But okay, it makes more sense that it's a patterning versus a deconstructing. And my 4th line is definitely looking for what to use and where it goes.
You're naturally looking for those patterns, and you're naturally looking for what you can take advantage of in the environment. It's survival based. As soon as we get over on the other side, then we're communion based, communication based, sensory based. Where it's just different, right?
Yeah.
There's people, for instance, I have a colleague who has action sense and external vision, but No, actually, she has external vision. She has a meditation sense, so she can watch your mind even though she has external vision. You too?
Same.
Me too.
Yeah, so
Same,
you're in
and I
between.
close down, and there's
You're in
times.
between.
Yes. Yes.
So you're in between, like I'm in between. I have judgment
Yes.
sense, but I'm out of vision. That means internal vision.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's a trip.
It's,
Okay.
it's very, for you, I mean, anybody that has anything in the management fine arts, it's a very mental process. What's your motivation?
Trying
Yeah.
just about anything in life. How was your childhood? Tell me about your mother. Tell me about your mother. When the moment presents itself.
Thank you. Well, I'm a 2-4, so I appreciate it.
So Kendra, would you share anything about you have touch cognition?
I touch cognition.
What's your awareness and experience of that?
I don't want to touch something that I feel I wouldn't want to eat or move through my system.
Yeah.
But I also have the sensitivity to frequency.
Mm-hmm.
I have the channel of sensitivity as well. But there's a sensitivity to sound and lights and all of that. But sometimes I feel overwhelmed with what's coming in, the information that's coming in, and if someone's coming into my aura without checking in or if it doesn't feel right, it's like immediately I'm touching that thing, even in aura, before it even touches the skin.
Right.
He was saying yesterday how much more porous the skin is for a touch cognition person, and that kind of turned some lights on too. It made sense to me. And I used to be a body worker.
Makes sense.
Touching bodies all the time, and it's and being tribal as well. Picking up so much information through that, and at some point it was too much. I stopped doing it, but it is in a way sort of a superpower. You touch someone and you know what's going on with their whole life or stuff that they didn't even talk about.
Interesting. Did you ever find that you had so one of the things I'm exploring is whether touch cognition. So we're talking about, it's not just hands, it's your skin, right? So your colon is lined with skin, essentially. So my theory is that touch cognition has sensitive stomach potentially.
Yes.
So, and a lot of issues can arise from that by not eating correctly. So you have that experience?
And then close
you have it?
taste also.
You have touch cognition too?
As I have deconditioned more, my stomach has gotten more sensitive.
That's
I
what
just
happens.
connected that when you said that. I was like, whoa. 'Cause I thought
We're growing into
something's
more
wrong with me because my
sensitivity,
stomach's
not
so
less.
sensitive now.
You know?
I've never had a sensitive stomach. And then when you just said that, I'm like, that's
It's a crazy thing. We need that sensitivity for feedback to orient ourselves, to make correct decisions.
And we become more and more exclusive about who we're around. We just move farther back.
For sure.
You were talking about too in the restaurant, you can feel the gesture in the food, or what, the frequency that goes into preparing the food, and I have that sensitivity too. That shows up in a different way.
Want to eat some love.
Definitely. It's all frequency.
It's really not about the food per se, like what the food is. It's about the frequency of it, So it's it's interesting. So when you were doing your body work, you were picking up on stuff you didn't want to be picking up on.
I mean, sometimes it's useful, and sometimes it's like, especially if they're not inviting my penetrative quality, whether I'm talking or not, during the session, because a lot of the times body work is it's not conversational. Then there's this being in this, interesting resistant state, not able to actually move the energy through. So not being able to be selective about clients sometimes when I was in that field.
Sure.
That was challenging.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, Ra famously said that with touch cognition, you could be sitting on a chair and if the carpenter's wife is pregnant. That's what he said. And it's, I mean, I don't have that capability yet, but I don't know if I want that capability.
My mom, when she was a little girl, we don't know what her birth time is at all. I wouldn't exactly know what her birthday is, but anyway, she said when she was a little girl, she would she could touch somebody's hand and she could see their whole life story. And she thought that that's why people held hands, because they were like
Oh,
reading each other's
wow.
That's cool.
That's
stories.
cool.
Interesting, yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
There's also, conversation around sometimes people really like, with touch cognition, like brand new things because they don't want somebody's history, and some people really appreciate the
Totally.
history, right?
New cars.
When I go into like an antique store, it's like you feel
the Baraka,
the
right?
history of
Yeah,
everything. And
It's heavy.
Yeah.
It's heavy. Yeah.
I get that even in
I
like
totally get that.
metaphysical shops
Yeah.
when there's
Yes.
just
Pay
like
more for the new
crystals
thing
around.
just to start fresh. Yeah. Yeah. So what's your experience with touch cognition?
So I'm just now learning about my touch cognition. So
Uh-huh.
I'm starting to kind of connect the dots a little bit from past experiences that I maybe didn't really
Yeah.
like connect them with
Right.
before. But definitely like feeling things before actually touching them is definitely present for me too, for sure. And then something that's always been really important for me is clearing energy, because I do intake it so much that I learned how to clear energy when I was in high school, because I've always used sage. I'm indigenous, and so like that has always been a really helpful tool for me. And like using like salt is also really huge for me, and selenite is one of the crystals that really helps me a lot because it can just pull it out of me.
Yeah.
And then another thing I've also noticed is I have learned how to shield really well too, because I was a stripper, so like I was physically touching people that maybe I didn't necessarily want to intake their energy. So I learned how to actually energetically shield myself from intaking too much. I was still gonna end up with stuff. Like I was still gonna end up with their energy some way, but because I had a history of being able to know how to clear and helpful shielding techniques, it was really, really useful. And I think that was just a survival mechanism that I had to learn from a really young age in order not to be super overstimulated and not take in too much that wasn't mine, because it was hard for me to recognize when I was younger what wasn't my energy and what was my energy that I was intaking.
Yeah, it's
For
so
sure.
key. Yeah, I've been curious about, because I see you have tattoos and I have tattoos, like touch cognition with that, and I don't know, I don't have, I'm drawn to it, aesthetically, but also the experience of it is not unpleasant for me.
No, me either. I have like a really, really high pain tolerance, so I can sit on a table for 8 hours and get tattooed, and
me too.
it doesn't bother me because it's something that I'm choosing. I think that is part of it. So like, acceptance for sure, and like I'm going to get it. It's not getting put on me without my consent. So if I was in, luckily I've never been in any traumatic experience bodily. Like I've never had like any like major surgeries. I've never been in any like horrific accidents or anything like that. So I'm wondering if something like that was to happen, how my body would react to that kind of experience, and with the pain threshold too.
When it's not permission.
When it's not, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
For sure.
I think that was a really smart thing. You brought in the keynote on the personality side and the acceptance, and there is something that does speak to me in the act of something like this. Just surrendering to that, and there is a little bit of that acceptance that does show up on the other side.
Acceptance, and it's also your skin is very porous with touch cognition, and the pores will close up if there's danger, and that's what you've been doing.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Pores will close up naturally.
And it's interesting too, because the pain thing for me is something that I'm gonna have to explore more about learning for myself, because I've always been interested in trying out supposedly very high pain things. Like I've wanted to try to do like the hook suspension. I've wanted to do the walking on fire, like that. Those are things that resonate with me that I would like to try, but I just haven't had the right opportunity. Yeah, and so like that's just interesting to me too. It's just like that that experience definitely interests me. So it's definitely something for me to explore within myself.
Gate
more.
36
Oh,
could be.
Do you have that?
I don't know.
Oh, nope.
Nope.
Nope. I have that full channel.
Do not.
No, she says the 59 cents.
That's my only channel. It's
Oh, wow.
56.
Yeah, I'll share that with you.
See. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You say.
Where are we at on time?
When I first learned that I was touch cognition, I was like, what? I hate being touched and I hate touching things, you know? And I'm also a first line, so I see every germ on every surface. And I was just like, I had this roommate with this little boy who would like, you know, just eat food and touch, and I'm just like, and at the end of the night I just walk around and clean everything, like, you know, fine. And I didn't want to feel that way, but I was. And then I got more comfortable with germs and I was fine with that too. But I was just like, what? I hate being touched and I hate touching things. Like, what? And that was like 6 years ago. So I've had plenty of time to like explore that. And now I know that I'm just really selective about that touch. And I was thinking about like the tattoos.
Yeah.
My first tattoo, I was 15, and this is actually a really cool story because I'm a manifester. So my signature is peace. And my first tattoo that I ever got was an ankh with a peace sign to symbolize eternal peace. I was 15. Like, it was crazy that I like had that. Anyway, but the guy that did it was like a friend's friend or whatever, you know, and he's like learned how to do tattoos in jail. I just had this icky energy. Didn't do what I wanted at all. And it was an excruciating experience. And I was like, it was so, and my mom had gotten one and she was like, oh, it's like, you can barely even feel it, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, it was like, they were literally having to like hold my leg and be like, oh, you're just trying to, you gotta finish this one part. And my friend was like, oh, you think that's bad? You should try childbirth. I was like, I'm never having kids, you know, but I had all three of my kids naturally, which was, you know, that was a totally different experience. But yeah, but then I've got other tattoos since then, and I'm like, that's
It's so much to do with the artist. It really is.
I just realized too. I don't know if that's something to do with touch cognition, but when I got my tattoo on my back, it's like a goddess on this side, and this side was like an ankh, and it's like a combination. But anyway, the goddess, I was like, oh, this is so easy. Yeah, it had been so long since I had tattoo. I was like, oh, this is so easy. And then she got to the ankh part, and the ankh is like, no. I said Om, but Om, sorry, Om. I was like, that's not right. Anyway, and it's really thick, and this side of my body is way more sensitive, and I almost could not get through that other half because this side of my body is more sensitive than this side. Does that make sense then?
Did you feel anything in your eye when that happened?
I don't remember. I don't recall. This was 7 or 8 years ago. I don't recall. But yeah, it was so weird. This side of my body is more ticklish.
On your left?
Like everything is more sensitive on this side, this left side than my right side.
No, actually I have one here, that there, but this is all covered. I think there's one, but it's here, there, but there's more on the left. I don't know the significance of
Yeah, I
that.
have all right on the body and one left on the mind.
Did you have like an idea about that?
All mine are left. I'm like, I have a half suit on the left.
Oh wow.
So it goes all the way half.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What have you understood about that?
You know what's funny? I don't really identify with tattoos like I used to. I got carried around over by a boat like 10 years ago. I'm like in a coma.
Okay.
I just fell out of tattoos. So, but
Was that like a reset for you and
all my
fundamentally?
it's a reset.
Yeah.
All my injuries are on the left side. So I'm just curious when she was talking about
Wow.
the
I
left side.
noticed one of my eyes that goes more low, it closes more than
I don't know.
It's also like receptive side of the body, right brain, left.
Yeah. So I was trying to make that connection. I was like, what?
Feminine, masculine.
I mean, look, this is happening eventually. So yeah,
Matter of
pandemic.
time.
So my tattoo artist is actually coming here at some point if he can make it. He's in 952.
Oh.
Look at this detail work.
Yeah.
I mean,
Cool.
so he's like a rock. He just gets in his zone.
If that matters,
And he's got a really gentle touch. He's a cool guy. He's an astrologer as well. He's like yoga, astrology, tattoos. He's a really cool guy.
So you said something earlier about a fifth color tapping into all of the other colors?
Tones, not colors.
Oh, tones, okay.
Yeah. So 4 taps into. So you know how fourth lines tap into their people? Fourth color taps into their people, the other colors. You know, the 5 reaches strangers. The 5th color reaches the strangers of the tones. So all those tones. So that's where that really comes from. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Huh?
You said the first part of that again, the fourth color.
So fourth line, is externalizing this network. It's people. So the fourth color is always transferring and moving to other colors. You know, if it's people, you know, like, you know, whereas the fifth color is tapping into strangers, just like the fifth line is reaching strangers. The strangers in this case are the tones. So, yeah.
I actually have something to add.
Yeah.
Based on observation of my husband and what Braden said,
Mhm.
which was really cool about, because my husband is quad right,
Mm.
and he has no sensitivity to smell. Like he can smell, but you know, if something's strong, I'm like, oh my god. So he's like, it just doesn't bother him.
Yeah.
And so, you know, but he has a lot of sensory sensitivity, and I was always kind of like, so why is he not sensitive to smell? When, you know, and then taste, he's kind of picky about textures, but again, maybe it's sort of like the foreign, the textures are foreign or something. And then he is kind of sensitive to bright lights,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not like primary, you know. So that's why I asked about the 4, because like I wonder if that's what my husband's quad right.
Okay, he's
Yeah.
quad right?
Yeah.
Okay, and he has inner vision?
He is feeling.
He's feeling cognition. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, because that's going to be closer. He doesn't like a lot of light.
He's sensitive to light, but what I'm saying is what I've noticed, it seems like almost there's a hierarchy. Like from the bottom, he's not sensitive to smell at all.
Hmm.
And then,
There is.
you know, so he's like
it's
the farthest
evolutionary.
away, he's just like, he's not really tapped into that at all. But so that's why I was asking about 4th tone, because I wonder how that shows up for him if he's tapping into 4th tone, what that looks like. Because he's definitely like always drumming on things, you know, like he's definitely got the touch part of it.
Yeah.
As far as I know, he probably is not going to tap into 4th tone as much.
Okay.
Because he's going to be very reliant on his solar
He's
plexus.
already at the 5.
My configuration is peculiar because I have a moding, so I have a mutated solar plexus as it is, and it picks up a lot of data and transmits a lot of data. So I do have an understanding of feeling cognition in that sense.
He's a
If he has-
4130.
He's not going to need. He wouldn't need inner vision anyways. It's also probable that his vision might start to deteriorate at some point as his feeling cognition starts to increase.
Well, he's not really deconditioning. Like he's always had perfect vision until he hit middle age, but he still doesn't. I mean,
Well, that's
this
something.
year's
We're supposed to. Our vision's supposed to get weaker. Has anyone had that experience? With you have. Yeah.
When you had for the 5th color or for the solar plexus?
It's the solar plexus binary. Yeah. And do you have any vision issues? Yeah.
I wear contacts, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I've always had 20/20 up until I don't know, very recently. But it's only like reading. I don't even have glasses for it. I can just hold it at distance. But
Yeah, I was mentioning with him yesterday or this morning or something. I went for an eye checkup recently and was feeling like I need to have my glasses, and I ended up walking out without buying them. And I thought, how interesting that this is coming up now around the just allowing the vision to naturally do what it's going to do.
Yeah.
And not try to force it in
That's
any
where I'm at. Yeah.
particular direction.
Yeah.
It's a good question. I'd like to hear James talk about it.
Sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say, so just like hearing all this, it's like, I was just like, so what is the benefit? Like, I know for me, like, I've just gotten more and more and more sensitive, but it's just not made my life easier at all. It's made my life a hell of a lot harder. And so I'm hearing everyone talk about their extrasensory stuff, and then like losing your fucking vision, like, what do y'all want with this? You know what I mean? Like,
I don't think
where's
it's.
this gonna take you? What's the point? You know?
No choice.
Yeah, no choice. Process.
You know the answer. He said, I've worked with you enough as a client. You know the answer.
Yeah, no, I mean, I do and I don't, but I don't know.
Well,
I'm just, like, wondering,
I don't think the
that's
vision
terrible.
thing is so overt. It
It's
isn't
not-
like you're going blind.
It's not like you're going
you know?
blind. It's just changing. It's just a little bit different. For instance, I'm inner vision. I'm colorblind, but I can see things people can't see. So you're just. It's just an evolutionary movement. You're just trading one thing that might be normal for something that's a little bit different.
But
That's all
also,
it is.
the mind is the one that's saying this one has more value than that. You know, that's
Yeah.
the mind that goes, oh, it's bad to lose your vision. You know, whatever. Like that's the mind that does that because we can't know what the experience actually is and how that's going to benefit us. Like we're not here to know that. We're just here to show up correctly and let it take us where we're going to go. One more.
I love.
There's this like quote from Raw that I mentioned a bazillion times in the last year that I love so much. It's from the when COVID hit, Jovian sent out this thing and he was talking about bird flu. Rob was talking about bird flu. And he said, being correct isn't about not getting sick. Because if you're acting correctly, it may be correct for you to get sick. And I think about that as an analogy to everything in my life.
Yeah.
Like, as long as I'm showing up correctly, whatever it is I'm experiencing is what I'm supposed to be experiencing.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the mind that starts telling these stories about, well, wouldn't that be better? And you know what I mean? And oh, you know, don't get sick, so don't go there. And it's like, that's not, no, what's correct for me to do? And I say sick because that's the analogy.
You need to get sick once in a while to detox.
It's meditative as well.
Yeah, and it's so good to build your immune system. There's so many, you know, so many things, but
We can't possibly know.
The vehicle
We can't,
will induce,
yeah.
will literally induce sickness when you need to listen
Oh
to
yeah,
it.
I get like what I call soul
Well,
sickness.
that's right.
Which is there's no
To bring you back to your body
you know,
sometimes.
it's my body
I
purging.
got pneumonia out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a moding mutated, tied to the lungs. I got a moding. My moding gave me pneumonia basically out of nowhere, and then my wave changed.
I
had to go to the ICU so that my wave could get more compressed.
Yeah, I get strep throat and tonsillitis like all the time, like just, and I've never given it to anybody. That you know, it's never. But I just it always like people are like, oh, it's because you gotta use your voice more, and I'm like, actually, that you were all wrong. Like for me, I'm like, bring it back in. My body's telling me slow down, rest, use your voice correctly, and you know, in those moments where it's gonna make the most impact, not just.
Yeah. I feel like this has been a preview for the solar plexus conversation. Later
I know, I'm excited about that. I was thinking about something. I'm like,
it's like I feel people are hungry to talk about that stuff. So.
About the fifth color stuff, just going back a little bit. As part of, so I'm taste, cognition, and fifth color, high sound. And I've noticed that if I'm doing, first of all, I've been operating correctly. I went through like this mindfulness training, and I said, sit down, no sound, get your food, torturous.
Yeah.
And anyway, that didn't last very long. But when I do sit down, it's like a ritual around watching my show, what's something I want to watch or something I want to listen to, and then like having my food ready, making sure, anyway, it's kind of like fits into like what I had already been doing. But what was more interesting for me once I had found it through human design was that I have memory attached to, like, when I think of a show or a book or a podcast I listen to, I have a taste memory attached.
Oh wow.
Like, because it's what I was eating when I was taking in the information. And so I wondered if maybe that is sort of like the hack in operating correctly. You know, because it works really really well for me. My daughter, right. My daughter's also high sound, taste, cognition, and she's growing up and like mouthing things all the time. It was a trip because I'm like, oh, I know what that tastes like. Like I know exactly what that dirt tastes like, or what that texture is like, or what that, you know. And so like how integrated it is into like the experience and the food and the sound with it too.
I have something to say about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not fifth color, but I listen to podcasts when I'm driving. I'm out of vision, and then if I listen to that podcast again, I can remember what I was seeing at the moment in the podcast.
My memories are attached to what I see too. Yeah, I'll be like, I'll remember something, and I'll be like, I know exactly, and sometimes I'll try to describe. And I was looking at the door, and it was like half open, and it's like, no, wait, that's right, that information's not important to you. You know, blah, blah, yeah.
Yeah, I have a friend who has inner vision under the environment, and he gets memories of places he's been.
Yeah.
And it's just pictures places randomly, you know.
Yeah.
So. Okay, is that a wrap?
Go team.
So this was the sound of
Yeah, to be continued in the solar plexus conversation.
Thanks, James.
Yeah,
Thanks
sure.
for letting me sit in.
Sure. A lot of cheaters
Thank you
here.
for caring so much that you want to join us.
I think it's Sunday. Do you have the guidebook?
We do, yeah.
I'm going to stop the